The White House is advising those Americans who want to leave Sudan to go immediately. Meanwhile, the Pentagon says it's working closely with the State Department to identify the number of Americans seeking to depart the war-ravaged nation. NTD's Daniel Monahan brings us more.
Those numbers are relatively small.
Brigadier General Pat Ryder says the number of Americans attempting to flee the violence in Sudan is relatively small.
However, we do recognize that that could change quickly. So
Ryder says all options are on the table.
But right now, we remain primarily focused on an overland route as it allows a few things.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre reacts to the situation on the ground.
This is a dynamic environment, and any option entails a degree of risk.
But she says the conditions are unlikely to improve.
We encourage Americans who want to leave to take advantage of the options that are available to them in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Meanwhile, clashes between militia groups and civilians have renewed in Sudan's West Darfur state. This as the situation in the rest of the country deteriorates. Shortages of vital water supplies and food prevail, while widespread looting and hospitals being targeted has been reported. Armed fighters rampaged through the city of Janina on Thursday, battling each other and looting shops and homes. The violence came despite the extension of a fragile truce between Sudan's top two generals, whose power struggle has killed hundreds. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
FBI Director Christopher Wray says the U.S. is falling behind in a cyber war with the Chinese Communist Party. He testified before a House panel yesterday. Wray says hackers from the Chinese regime outnumber U.S. cyber specialists by 50 to 1. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more from yesterday's hearing.
Wray defended President Biden's 2024 budget request in his testimony before the House Appropriations Committee on Thursday.
We will put those critical resources towards ensuring the FBI remains the world's premier cyber investigative agency.
The GOP debt limit bill passed in the House would cut FBI funding by 22%. Wray says the cut would mean scores of threats from the Chinese Communist Party or CCP go unaddressed.
And I can assure you the Chinese government is not dialing back.
Wray says FBI investigations into the CCP and their actors have increased by over 1,300%. He says the FBI blocks around 15 million cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure every week. Wray argued the 22% cut being proposed by Republicans would further benefit the CCP's cyber dominance. And the FBI director says it's not just the Chinese regime that poses a challenge in cyberspace.
Countries like Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And it is getting more and more challenging to discern where the nation-state threat ends and the cyber criminal threat begins.
Many Republicans have expressed concerns that the FBI has become more partisan in recent years and accused the agency of focusing on targeting Democrats' political enemies instead of prioritizing the protection of American citizens. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Speaking of China, Chinese police have questioned staff at a U.S. consultancy firm based in Shanghai.
Police first visited the offices at Bain Co. around 2 weeks ago. Initial reports indicate some of the company's phones and computers were confiscated.
The police reportedly made more than one visit to the offices, although the purpose is unclear. It's also unknown whether the raids were connected to the firm or its clients.
According to a statement by the company, several staff were questioned, but no arrests were reported.
The incursion came in the wake of a raid at U.S. firm Mintz Group in Beijing last month and amid heightened tensions between China and the U.S. The American Chamber of Commerce in China says U.S. businesses are growing pessimistic about their prospects in the country.
That's right. Are you searching for a home? There are some changes coming to mortgages. I wanted to find out how fees and interest rates are expected to change, so I spoke with the head of a lending group. Take a listen. Joining me now is Joshua Goodwin, the owner of Goodwin Mortgage Group. It is great to have you with us, Joshua.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. What can you tell us about these upfront fees for loans that we're expected to see next week based on credit scores and down payment size?
Yeah, so what the articles have been stating is essentially everyone's in panic, thinking that the higher your credit score is and the more you put down, the worse your rate is going to be, which is almost on points. And then the lower your score is, the less money you put down, the better your rate's going to be. So that's a brief summary of it. In reality, what is taking place right now is even with a lower credit score still, your rate is not going to be as favorable, but the cost for that rate, so let's just say before this change took place, they would have had 2.5% in points. Now instead of 2.5% in points, it's 1%. So the rate is still costing, it's just not costing as much. So that money needs to come from somewhere, and who that does come from is, your 780 buyer putting down, 10, 15%. Their rate is going to be a little bit higher than what it used to be.
I see. And what have banks done in response to this anticipation of this rule change?
So the lenders, especially even for our institutions, these rules have already been put into place, and they've been effective, at least for us, and I know a few others, for over a month now. So for those that are looking to purchase a home, it's not a complete panic. I mean, the rates that you've probably already been getting quoted have that change already in effect.
The 30-year mortgage rate right now for interest is about 7%. And forecasters
roughly
show that for a that's for a $300,000 loan at 20% down. Economists say this won't drop below 6% until the second half of the year. What do you expect here? And is it better to wait, or are we going to just run into a more competitive housing market?
I mean, so for example, I'm in Tampa, Florida, right? So our market is still increasing. I think it's already up over 3% this year. So I'm a big believer in, if you can afford the payments, if it doesn't put you in financial duress, it is always better to own, because if you rent, your rents can increase as well as prices continue to go up. So for me, if you can afford the payment, you can always refinance at a later date once rates start, to come down, which, we hope we might see some decrease towards the end of the year into next year. But, your crystal ball is as clear as mine.
Well, Joshua, there's a report out by the National Multifamily Housing Council. It says that owning a home right now costs about $1,000 more per month than renting. Is it better to rent or own right now?
I would say it depends on the market, right? So I don't currently have any properties that I rent myself, as in me living in them. I'm in the process of building a few properties to rent them because I know how good the rental market is here in Tampa. So depending on what you're renting and where you're renting, I know various friends that live in Water Street, downtown Tampa, and their rent is anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 a month. So in that bracket, it would be more advantageous to buy. I'm a big believer, even if rates have increased. Like I said, I'm a big proponent for buying a home even over renting.
Yeah, the financial bottom line makes a big difference, and there's that sentimental value about owning your own place and being able to do some home improvement. Joshua Goodwin, owner of Goodwin Mortgage Group, it is great to hear from you.
Yes, thank you again for having me.
Welcome back. A New Orleans student has become a source of pride for school administrators. He is on his way to break a record for scholarship offers, with well over 100 offers so far, totaling millions of dollars. NTD's Cost Jimenez has the story.
Dennis Malik Barnes of New Orleans is a senior at 16. With a grade point average of 4.98, he's earned 27 college credits, even before graduating from high school. But perhaps the most impressive numbers are his college scholarship offers.
Very consistent. I'm very diligent whenever I put my mind to do something. Very persistent. And then those are just characteristics that I've been told that I have. I mean, sometimes I notice it, but not necessarily. That's just me as a person. But I think that those are definitely qualities that have pushed me towards success.
Dennis has received close to 130 college scholarship offers so far, totaling almost $10 million. But Dennis says his purpose is not to strive for a record. His goal is to find the right fit educationally, coupled with the best financial offer.
I would love to get out. I really would. I would love to see something new. This is where I've been born and raised so far. I would like to venture out and get new experiences.
Dennis says he plans to major in computer science as an undergrad, and he's thinking about law school. Cost Jimenez, NTD News.
And Kevin, we are heading to the weekend.
Yeah, you got that right.
You know what I'm thinking?
What?
Spa day.
Oh, okay. I've heard those are relaxing.
Even though I've never been to one.
Really?
But I'm not the only one thinking of relaxing, because researchers in Australia have released some remarkable videos of humpback whales. They followed the mammals for more than a year and observed an interesting behavior. These whales are rolling on the seafloor to exfoliate dead skin and remove parasites. Scientists say it's important to maintain skin health. It also helps feed the ocean, as fish can be seen feeding on what is scraped off.